Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the rush of your daily life? In the busy life of the city, we need a space to relax, a space to breathe. Time in nature has been proven to enhance well-being, cognitive function, and physical health. And the zoo is a place where someone can have a complete natural experience, not far from the city, but it is lacking a valuable water experience. The Arpies River is polluted, and the pollution comes from water that is upstream, out of the zoo's control. These man-made fountains are lifeless and can't be interacted with, and these water retention pools are gross. Charlie has left the zoo, and we could never create an attraction as mighty as him. But the elephant enclosure can have a new life, with a unique experience where people can learn from, play with, and appreciate water. My question is, how can a new water system in the elephant enclosure create clean water where people can learn from and interact with this valuable resource? My objectives are to create a water system that collects and filters water, to educate visitors about water's high value, and to connect people to water physically and emotionally. Water is a valuable resource. The zoo uses a lot of water. It uses mains, grey water, and borehole water, which is great. However, the zoo collects stormwater and directs it straight into the polluted river, right past the enclosure. Let's tap into this underutilized resource and direct the stormwater into the moats. We will use the outline of the moat to build a bioswale for water filtration and visual effect. But we need to modify the moat because the concrete base doesn't allow for water infiltration to the ground and it blocks views of water from a distance. The earth behind the bioswale will be removed and the inner wall of the moat will be moved a few meters inwards. The removed wall will stand upright to not prevent water seepage. They can serve as places for signs, make steps, or be a low wall to rest against. They can also function as weirs if the water gets especially high. Earth is packed back over the concrete so that the water can now travel towards the open earth. Finally, by introducing gravel, sand, and water, we have a typical section of our bioswale. The water will pool where it enters sites so that it can be slowed down before traveling along thinner pathways. The water flows north down the slope. Rainwater from the sites will be directed to the moats south of the Old Dutch building. All of the water travels to the northeast corner where it will settle and seep into the ground as a wetland. The Kruger National Park riverbeds are a great example of a water body that dries but still has value. The dry bed can serve as a large sand pit for messy kids. The water is allowed to expand and contract in accordance with season. In winter it might go completely dry, and this should be allowed as pumping in water may teach the wrong lesson about water scarcity. Species system. The areas in and around the waterways are the most wet. Meanwhile, the areas furthest from the waterways are the driest. The fluctuations of water will create distinct ecological zones according to drought and moisture tolerance. The elephant enclosure falls into the endangered ecosystem of Marikana thornfelds. Knowing this, how can we develop a plant palette? These are the plants common to the Marikana thornfelt. After grouping, we can see there's much more arid plants, no pretty succulents, and too few water-tolerant plants. We will select arid plants best suited to climbing, benefit to birds and insects, and good visual character. We will also add more succulents and water plants. With that complete, we get our plant palette. What about animals? How can they interact with water? Worms and non-biting midge larvae can help purify water. To keep their population in check, we should also add a predator or frog species. When you make an ecosystem more complicated, you also make it more resilient. Now we have frogs in our design. Ribbit. Great! We're done, right? No. If we make a natural experience, what point is it if there's no people there to experience it? Oh. Right. Just tell me how you plan to attract people to this space. Well, obviously we need walkways into and around it, but before we get to that, let's just decide what activities we're having. I decided to look at these 5 kinds of activities: play, eating, learning, recreation, and travel. I rated them on a scale of 1 to 5 based on how well facilitated and varied the function was. As it stands, the space around the zoo has multiple areas for eating, some recreation, and a very small learning space. As you can see, the area desperately requires more play areas, more education, and more recreation to create a complete experience of activity. This forms the 3 zones of the elephant enclosure, which we will populate with design solutions. We will work through these zones starting with the learning zone and traveling anti-clockwise. The learning zone has the most activities. It will contain a bioswale, auditorium, water-wise garden, and refurbished elephant enclosure to become a digital learning space and water meditation space, and also a wetland. Okay, let's get people into the urban oasis. The Bostrus Gardens has beautiful and simple timber bridges. We will add bridges that bring people to the center of this urban oasis. For pathways, they've used a sand-tinted asphalt that offloads water into the gardens. And we will connect these bridges with the main pathway of asphalt and a sub-pathway of gravel. This area here is a good opportunity for people to have an early learning interaction with water. The false rocks will be removed and used as aggregate for the bioswale. The water fills the area far enough from the stinkwood so as not to make them sick. And so we have a bioswale. But people don't know that. So the retaining walls are used as a base for signage, which explains what bioswales are and how they work. It's essential to have an auditorium in a learning area, and so it shall be. The topography will be built to create an auditorium outwards from the new bioswale, and people can see the bioswale as they're being taught about it. The removed concrete walls are used to create stepping for the earth, and the seating will be shaded by acacia trees. The ground is paved, which grows baby sun roses and Bermuda grass. The back of the auditorium is planted with arum lily and morning glory to create a beautiful backdrop for learning. The waterwise garden paints the picture of what ecosystems look like away from water bodies and are an important lesson in water. In my mind, there is an association between dry gardens and ugly, unmaintained gardens. So my intention is to create a waterwise garden that is actually quite beautiful. As per the competition brief, rainwater will be collected from the cafe roof as well as the old lion cages. This will have a water purification system so that people can see how such a system works and they can drink from it. The water should not be needed to irrigate the garden. A key succulent is the Lithops leslieii. The plant is indigenous and is selected based on its similarity to an elephant's foot as an homage to Charlie. But the plant is small and must be raised to people's eye level. For this we will use PVC pipes as planters. To make the space for a new garden, these plants will be removed. We will add a bridge across the Ecological enclosure. By creating a number of pipes, the small landscape can be modeled in a way that is steeper than conventional landscaping may allow and creates an organic object that is interesting. The two elephant enclosures will become experience centers with a focus on water. One enters in between them and can choose an experience. The elephant enclosure on the left will become a digital auditorium. Digital projections can display to people far inland the power of the ocean. Borders are lost when people see a blue whale at full scale and they hear it roar. Once people have been amazed by the power of water, they can attend a sort of sensory deprivation room. Here in this dimly lit space, there is a large pool of water, and from the roof comes a quiet drip, drip, drip. This silence and consistent noise gives a real gravity to the precious resource that is water. The wetland is the main habitat of the frogs. It's deeper, allowing large amounts of water to be stored in heavy times of rain, and there will also be shallow areas where frogs can inhabit. Here the worms and larvae populations will thrive, keeping the water pure. I'm sure this place would sound lovely. The play zone has a play park between the restaurant and Old Dutch building. The topography between the buildings are averaged with bioswale in between. The area has a mix of small shrubs and taller trees which children can climb. The walls of the moat are used to create long steps. Parents mind their kids at the playground from the restaurant and the Old Dutch building, which is opened up and seating provided. The final zone, the recreation area. It will have areas for seating picnic style, bench style, while people sit close to the bioswale and bask in the nature. It will have taller trees for shade, areas where people can sit and relax, and the concrete walls are used as low dividers for people to sit between. Now that we have all the activities, we can see what they look like on a plan together. And we arrive at the completed design. In my unbiased opinion, this project has completed its objectives of creating a new water system that cleans water, educates visitors about water's high value, and allows people to connect with water. Thank you for walking with me through this design. The urban oasis is now complete.